नमस्कार दोस्तों, स्वागत है हमारे चैनल थिंक टैंक इंडिया पर। थिंक टैंक इंडिया पर आज हम नए फॉर्मेट में एक नए शो करने जा रहे हैं। मैं डॉक्टर बसुधा इसमें आपको स्वागत करते हैं। इस शो में मैं सिर्फ एक सूत्रधार की तरह काम करूंगी। मैं इस शो का ओपन करके हमारे दो मेहमान के ऊपर छोड़ रही हूँ, वही आज के शो के कैरी करेंगे। वही एक दूसरे से अपने सवाल पूछेंगे, वही एक दूसरे से जवाब लेंगे। और इस शो में हमारे साथ आज एक खास मेहमान जुड़ रहे हैं। पहली बार वो हमारे चैनल पे आ रहे हैं, विकास धवन जी। विकास सर, वेलकम टू आवर शो। एक
Thank
मशहूर
you.
एंटरप्रेन्योर है हमारे देश का। और अमित सर को तो आप हमेशा, अमिताभ सर को तो देखते ही है, हमारे शो पे आते हैं। ये भी एक मशहूर बैंकर है और पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट है, और ये क्विज से आए हैं। और विकास सर एक एंटरप्रेन्योर के साथ साथ एक पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट भी है। तो बोथ ऑफ यू वेलकम टू आवर शो।
Thank you. Thank you,
और
Dr.
आज हम जिस टॉपिक पे बात करने जा रहे हैं, भारत के बढ़ते हुए रुतबा के बारे में। भारत की रुतबा, हर देश के रुतबा उसकी करेंसी से झलकते हैं। भारत की करेंसी INR यानी इंडियन रूपी धीरे धीरे इंटरनेशनल बनने जा रहे हैं। अभी 18 देश में उसको एक्सेप्ट कर लिया है और धीरे धीरे बाकी देशों ने भी करने शुरू कर दिए हैं। अगर ये 50 देशों में एक्सेप्टेबल हो जाए तो ये डॉलर, पाउंड और यूरो के साथ दुनिया की चौथी इंटरनेशनल करेंसी बन जाएगी। और हम जिस तरह से भारत की ग्रोथ हो रहा है, भारत की इकोनॉमी की ग्रोथ हो रहा है, भारतीय रुपये को जिस तरह से पूरे दुनिया एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं एक ट्रेडिंग के लिए, इसे जिस तरह से एक्सेप्ट किए जा रहे हैं, लगता है बहुत जल्दी ये हो जाएंगे। इस वजह से हमारा आज का टॉपिक है, हाउ क्लोज इज द INR टू रिप्लेस USD। और इस बारे में जो हमारे दोस्त सर बात करेंगे। तो वेलकम सर टू आवर शो। आज के शो आपके ऊपर ही है, आप दोनों कंटिन्यू करिए।
Thank you, Dr. Basudha.
Thank you, Dr. Basudha.
Pleasure to be here. And like I always say, Amitabha is always so bullish on the Indian currency. So can I ask you, what are the key drivers of the Indian economy that make you bullish about the Indian rupee?
See, one thing is that why do we want the Indian currency to go global? So there are certain things which are strongly in favor of India. First is the growing size of the Indian economy and the increased trade and FDI flows that we've been seeing over the last few years. So that is one of the strongest drivers, and we are targeting higher exports, higher. We are already a preferred FDI destination, so that is one. Now the second thing is that the India being a very stable economy now, the internationalization of the rupee is going to promote the development of the financial markets in terms of trade settlement. And this is a very, very important thing for India because it will help in reducing the currency mismatch for our financial institutions. We will have a better ability to address a trade deficit that we have seen that India is aspiring to overcome, and this is also a very strong factor that the government is considering, due to which I believe they are now getting into relationships with various other governments on a one-on-one basis right now. But if we can get this standardized with the internationalization of the rupee, then this will have a very important impact on our high trade deficit. Now,
Yeah.
the other thing that we might see is that as we you know grow in the size of our economy and we develop this synergy with the SAARC and ASEAN countries, this will also help in increasing India's trade in the region. Now, apart from the geographical contiguity, the we are largest trading partners for both Nepal and Bhutan. And if we were to get into the SDR, this move will permit the rupee to be used officially in international transactions, and that itself gives a dominant position to India in the region. Now, having said that, there are also a couple of things that we will probably come across during the discussion where there are lots of things that India still needs to do in order to get into that SDR bucket. But before getting into those things, one of the things I would like to ask you, Vikas, that how do you see the INR performing in the next 5 years?
Uh, One is, of course, it will continue to appreciate against the US dollar, but at a much slower pace than recent years. Then, of course, since it is getting global exposure, it is possible that it may turn more volatile as it becomes more integrated into the global financial system. Of course, on the pro side, the rupee will become more widely used in international trade, which has already started to happen, and that itself would attract a lot of foreign investment into our country. Lastly, it would become all of these factors together would make it much more attractive as a reserve currency for central banks.
And how do you see it impacting the swap market and the forex market?
Well, see, even before we become a kind of a reserve currency, there are some challenges we need to overcome, right? That is, one is, of course, the rupee is not fully convertible. That is, it is convertible on current account, but not on the capital account. This means that there are some restrictions on how it can be traded and used at the moment. For example, foreigners cannot hold rupee deposits in India yet. So this makes it slightly less attractive to use as a reserve currency. So these are some of the things I'm mentioning that are challenges that we have to overcome. Secondly, India's share of global trade has to increase far more than what it is today. And we see major strides already happening. If you see the way the exports have grown in the last 9, 10 years, it's a phenomenal increase, right? But it needs to increase quite a bit more to create a demand for the rupee in international transactions. Uh, Lastly, while the rupee has been very volatile in recent years, by attracting, by building up our reserves, we need to make this slightly more stable, right? So these are three primary things we would need to bring under control to make it more attractive as a store of value. And the Indian government needs to take some steps to reduce the volatility in the rupee, such as improving its reserves and reducing its financial deficits.
Right. I think the volatility aspect is a very, very important aspect because this can heavily reduce the cost of business for Indian entrepreneurs. And obviously, once the cost of business is optimized, then growth of business and the opportunities for the Indian businessmen to grow globally will be impacted, in India's favor. That
I
is
also wanted, yeah, quite true. I also wanted to ask you about one of your favorite topics, which is how the economic reforms of the Indian government are leading to a situation where we are even thinking that India could one day come on par with USD. This is something we could have never even thought about like 10 years back. So, what are the reforms and changes that the government has brought in that has allowed us to think so ambitiously?
see here. I think we need to go in a little bit of history.
Yeah.
Now, when we gained independence, uh, I'm sure many of our viewers are aware that we started off with a very, very comfortable foreign exchange situation. Our, the uh, trading value of the Indian rupee against many other currencies was much higher than it is today. Not only that, in the Gulf especially, a lot of countries actually used the Indian currency. So much so that there was a time when a separate series of notes had to be printed to prevent malpractices, you know. And these countries are typically Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the UAE. Uh, Now, then, as time went by, these notes were gradually withdrawn because these countries, they started issuing their own currencies. So, this from this historical perspective, one can say that then, as the currencies of these nations arrived on the scene, the Indian currency was sort of not used anymore. And now, in the current situation, even without Indian currencies being used across various nations, the major changes that we are seeing is that there are strong steps by the RBI which which are actually favoring the rupee trade. Now, the invoicing and payment and settlement of exports and imports in rupees, uh, which happened by a policy change in RBI around July 2022, this was a very strong move. And now, under this arrangement, the trading partners were allowed to open special rupee Vostro accounts, and this could be used to settling both exports and imports. So this is a major change that uh, was made by RBI. Now, when we are handling such accounts, there's obviously 100% of the amount cannot be utilized, by such exercises. So these amounts could be invested in the domestic markets to favor the investor. Now, that is a significant change that RBI brought about. Now, we know that in the multipolar system that has developed, especially after the Russia-Ukraine war started, that India has a potential to stand as a dominant player in the trade market. Now, with this, a strong foreign exchange market, which would have an efficient swap market, is a big boost for the rupee internationalization. Now, here there are several factors that would be important for the government to address in terms of certain economic fundamentals as well as the financial sector health and the sovereign ratings. Now, if these are addressed in a proper manner, then I believe the INR has a very strong potential to enter the SDR bucket. No, so and here I think the stability of the government would make a major difference in terms of uh, the
Absolutely.
foreign FDIs coming in, and so FIIs also. So now I think fairly with the type of uh, analysis that we've been getting from various news agencies, I think it would be safe to say that probabilities are higher for the same government to continue, and thus we could, you know, be in a better position into addressing these issues in the coming
Absolutely.
coming
Absolutely.
year or so.
In fact, if I may add to everything you said. Of course, you have covered most of it. But then, the liberalization of the financial markets has been a very significant step in making it easier for investors to participate, right? Reforms such as easing of the FDI norms has attracted a lot of capital inflows in recent years. Then again, India has expanded its trade relations with so many countries around the world. We
Yeah.
have new FTAs in place and more bilateral, multilateral agreements coming across, which has increased the international use of Indian rupee, right? And also on the side of technology, right? There's been a lot of digital innovation in India. For example, our payment systems within the country, which are now being expanded to other countries as well, has put India in the forefront of digital innovation with a very thriving fintech industry and a very strong push towards digital payments. So this makes the Indian rupee, and we have the e-rupee as well now, right? So
Yeah.
this makes the Indian rupee well suited for the digital area of international finance. Then again, like you rightly mentioned, India's geopolitical influence is fast expanding. It started, I would say, we saw a big boost during the COVID when we sent these vaccines to so many countries. Uh, it was the start of India starting to be in the forefront whenever any help is required. And this has built up uh, India as a very trustworthy and friendly nation to most countries around the world. And then again, we have been steadily building a foreign exchange reserve, more than 600 billion now, and still counting, right? Plus, this government's focus on building infrastructure uh, and this national infrastructure pipeline that has come into place, it enhances our country's economic prospects and attractiveness to global investors. So all of these two are going to uh, put us in a position where the Indian rupee looks like a very attractive uh, addition to the reserve currencies of the world.
Right. But I think our share in the global trade, that needs to increase
Yeah,
uh,
that's true.
very much.
Yeah,
And if we see that, currently the global forex turnover, then I think about 88% uh, is, you know, in favor of the dollar. Now, that, of course, the euro, yen, pound sterling follow. But if you see the experience that China had, they were successfully able to push the renminbi into the SDR bucket, but their trades have been very much negligible. And today, if we see the rupee accounts, we are only at about 2%. But then we know that in many areas, India has put in the right steps. So a sudden growth cannot be ruled out if the proper, guidelines and the structure, the overall structure is put in place. Then we could see that sort of a transition uh, maybe swifter than we expect. Now, the other thing that also is a factor is in terms of reserves. Today also, again, in reserves term, the dollar continues to be a, favorite of all the reserve holders. So I think it crosses about two-thirds of the holdings. Now, a fifth, about a fifth is held by euros. Now, all the others constitute less than 10% or so. So now only 6 out of 130 countries are holding rupee reserves. Now, this has to be promoted by, whichever way. So, like, today the dollar, euro, and the now euro is a strange case. Euro, if you look at the euro, the currencies that came together to form the euro were never in the that basket.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Apart
suddenly
from
when they
maybe, Deutsche Mark, at one time it was seen as uh, a possibility, but
yes,
then their
true, but
government
they
was not
had
very
their own
particular.
regulations.
Yeah.
It was their own regulations that prevented them to enter the SDR market.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now the so if we see the top four, dollar, euro, yen, and British pound, then we'll see that there are more than 100 countries which are holding these as reserves. Now, uh, here also, India has to improve its position. I'm not ruling out the potential that India has, but these are areas where India needs to focus on so that we have a better standing as we go along. Because I
Quite right.
believe, yeah, because I believe India is now targeting the uh, third position in terms of economy. So once we try to push up our trade volumes and aim for that place, the closer we get to that third place, I think that will also make this a stronger proposition that India has that, India gets into that basket.
True. So, in your opinion, which are the other global currencies that could challenge the Indian rupee for the status of global reserve currency?
I really don't see any challenge from that perspective because the first see when India, I believe, rise of the INR will actually see casualties elsewhere because if global trade shifts towards India, definitely the the fall guy will be the renminbi. And I really don't see any other country which is going to be a competitor to India uh, simply by the way the economy is growing. I mean, I don't see any competitor from that perspective.
Okay.
And the other thing is that uh, if if by any chance, due to the geopolitics in Europe, the euro takes a hit, then it might be uh, actually working in favor of India.
Yeah,
So,
I guess so too. Yeah.
so that is. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but then the way things have been going in Europe, one can't predict.
We can't rule out. Yeah, we can't rule out that
Yeah, we
possibility.
can't rule it out. We can't rule it out. That's the thing. But it's I believe this is going to be a evolutionary process, and we have to cross the bridge when we come to it. So
Absolutely.
so the potential is very much there, but
We have some
uh,
bridges to cross. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
See, maybe 10 years earlier, somebody would have said that the Australian dollar could have had the potential. But then, as it happens, today their chance is very, very flimsy. I wouldn't even call it a chance, you know. So, so, so the public policy focus on addressing the preconditions of a very deep and domestic and very strong and vibrant domestic market that we have, and the frameworks for legally imposing a contract, a contractual understanding, coupled with stable and market friendly macro and microeconomic policies. These things, if they come together, then I think there is no reason that India would get into the that India would not get into the SDR bucket.
Sure.
So, So, and then I believe then the rest is just not trade. It will also depend on certain, you know, relationships that India is. I believe that is one of the strengths of India, that India is not driving trade as trade itself, but driving trade on the face value of goodwill that India has been able to generate. Because if I am not wrong, uh, about 9 years back or maybe 10 years back, we were deep in the fragile five, and today we have come out of that situation. But still, there I believe these steps, like if we remove the restrictions on buying and selling of domestic currency, both in the spot market and the forward markets, so that could be a very big boost towards India's claim to be in the SDR.
True.
Again, in the domestic policies, we should be able to invoice exports and imports on our own currency, which to a certain extent is happening today. But that needs to go out to many more countries
Yeah,
with bilateral relations.
yeah.
And then to hold the, like the financial institutions and individuals and government institutions holding the currency and the financial instruments, which could also display our strength to bring up the rupee in the international currency market.
In fact, one thing that is indirectly helping us is also a push towards de-dollarization by many countries. What's your opinion on that?
Yes, I mean, see, de-dollarization, I think, uh, has happened because of some sort of a hard stance taken by certain administrations in the recent times in US. However, if somebody realizes that and are willing to make changes on that, then this trend could at least be, if not reversed, at least be stopped, checked. Now that will remain to be seen, because right now, uh, the way things are going, obviously it is not in the favor of the dollar. But then one cannot predict in a very firm manner that whether things will change after 2024.
So,
So not 2024, I think they take effect on in 2025. so
right.
so that's, yeah. So those things one has to be very careful. But the good thing here is that today, what at least I think is happening very strongly, is that there is a very strong coordination between various ministries which are working in tandem to fulfill certain objectives. Now, once that starts happening, or that is into the behavior, or the general behavioral pattern of the government, then one can expect these things to get a synergic push that in the past we have not seen, across many decades.
Completely agree. The other thing, of course, that is in our favor is the strong advances in fintech, right?
Yeah,
That is, it's played a very crucial role in enhancing the global reputation of Indian rupee. In
right.
fact, we have very efficient cross-border payment systems with and digital remittances with countries like Nepal, right? Because there are a lot
Yes,
of people from Nepal and India sending money back. And then the fintech platforms have also democratized the forex market. They made
right.
it easily accessible to the man on the street, and even
Yes,
small businesses and individuals can participate in currency trading, increasing the demand for Indian rupee in the forex market, right?
Undoubted.
And then, of
Undoubted.
course, e-rupee has come in. Hopefully, if there is some cryptocurrency integration, if while the regulatory framework for cryptocurrency is still evolving in India, that is, the government has not yet taken a firm stance on it yet. Still, fintech innovation in the cryptocurrency space is happening a great deal in India, and it can potentially attract foreign investment and trade using digital assets. And then, of course, we are very famous now for our digital payment infrastructure that we have built up, right? Which makes it easier for businesses and individuals to transact in Indian rupees electronically. And the push of the government to create this financial inclusion and the measures they've taken to mitigate the currency risks through the fintech platforms, plus the digital security that is being built into all our systems. These are some measures that are maybe small factors, but they'll go a long way in making trading with rupee much safer and secure and trusty process.
True. The only one point that I believe that we need to understand about the cryptocurrency thing is that if there is a mechanism by which cryptocurrencies can be brought under the tax net, then what will happen is then even the government can take advantage of it, and being a beneficiary they will further push this cryptocurrency thing. So, and that is one of the things that can make a huge change. Recently I was looking at one of the yeah
Yeah, so
tell me.
I just wanted to say it's already potentially within the tax net, because the one of the primary reasons why people buy cryptocurrency around the world is anonymity. However, in India, the government has regulated that the crypto exchanges have to do the full KYC for their customers, which means if they are traced, the KYC is done. AML, the anti-money laundering regulations are also applied. Then all of this comes fully under the tax net. And even the taxation rates have been announced. It's slightly higher than the highest slab. Plus, the finance minister also had said that your losses that you make on this cannot be carried over. So that means the government is actively thinking about it,
Right.
and they're already regulating it. So, and the taxation part is already uh, coming into place now. So these factors should not matter anymore in future.
Yes, yes, I think that's definitely one of the things. And the other thing is also that, for the young generation, uh, getting them into these new age fintech, and the negotiable instruments, as they say, this can, once this is worked out properly, I think, yes, cryptocurrencies can be a huge boost towards the Indian
Yeah.
economy. The other thing is, I don't know if you've seen this suggestion. There was a suggestion for another round of tax reforms, whereby they were saying that uh, there should be one simplified tax, and that is on any transaction over 5,000
Yeah.
rupees you charge 1%.
Yeah.
Now, if that came around, I think that would be a tremendous boost.
Yeah.
Though before it is
Yeah.
implemented, lots of other things will have to be worked out.
So this is a so-called expenditure tax. That is, rather than
Yes,
taxing income, each time somebody spends, they pay a very trivial amount like 1% or half percent. But the
yes,
advantage here is you get all the 1.4 billion people come under the tax net.
yes,
So
exactly.
rather than collecting income tax from less than 10% of the population, the
Yes,
moment they spend money, if you can put a very, like you said,
a
maybe
nominal,
1%,
a
a very
nominal
nominal
tax.
amount, which nobody
Yeah,
really
yeah,
minds.
right.
And yeah, of course, we would have to ensure that the proper framework is in place so that people don't have an incentive to uh, avoid this 1%, right?
Right.
But then I agree, this would be a major change and it would make a lot of income. The amount people are paying in taxes, it would make it available to the people to use for other purposes, and that itself would be a major boost for the Indian economy.
Yeah, and the other good thing that might come out of this is staying in India and working in an Indian firm, or even allowing foreign firms to set up office in India for the sheer benefit of the tax levied on their employees. This will
Absolutely.
become a huge factor in getting in
Absolutely.
FDIs.
Yeah.
So if I don't think it would be right to expect that this will happen over the next 6 to 9 months, but definitely in the next term,
Yeah.
if this is given a serious thought, then that could actually
Transform.
accelerate India's movement into the top three.
It will transform us completely.
Absolutely, it's a complete transformational move.
Transformation. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I always prefer to say that, we started our reforms, then
Yeah.
we started our performances, and now it's the time to transform. So
Completely agree. So this has
yeah.
been a
So
wonderful conversation. Would you like to summarize or give your last thoughts on the topic?
I'll leave that to you.
So a couple of factors. So a lot of factors are working in our favor. That is, we are having very sustained and very strong economic growth. Right? We have a very fast expanding middle class. We have a very diversified economy. Our trade relations are expanding across the world. Our financial markets are becoming open and transparent. And most of all, there's a stable government which has a very strong commitment to making this happen. So I think all of this are pushing us in the right direction. And I'm equally bullish as you about the Indian rupee at some point being considered one of the global reserve currencies.
Yeah, I have been bullish since I was born into Taurus.
True.
Okay, so Vasudha ji, I think we are ready to conclude the session now. Would you please like to join us? Come in.
Yes, it was a very great session. It was an amazing session. और हमने जाना कि इंडियन रुपी एक दिन जरूर अपने टॉप पोजीशन पे पहुंचेंगे। और दर्शक देखते रहिए थिंक टैंक इंडिया। प्लीज शेयर, सब्सक्राइब, लाइक आवर चैनल और कमेंट करिए हमारे शो पर। और आप दोनों को भी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आप दोनों आए। फिर से हम आप लोगों को हमारे चैनल पे इनवाइट करेंगे। नमस्कार।
Namaskar.
Namaskar.